Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to FMSCOUT. It is RDF, and today, well, on Twitter and on YouTube, we done a poll and we asked you which tactic would you like to see me recreate next, and the answer was the 1970 Brazil tactic. Of course, the greatest football team ever of all time, no doubt, literally no doubt about that. So over the last couple days, it has just been relentless watching videos, watching YouTube, reading, research. It's been plenty of research, but I feel I have finally come up with a tactic that replicates that Brazil tactic into Football Manager. Brazil won the World Cup in 1970, but not only that, they're considered the greatest football team of all time by footballing experts, mainly because of the way they play with such elegance and artistry. This team is probably one team that every young kid at that time wanted to be part of or play like. I still watch my uncle's tapes and YouTube videos to this day. Brazil had an influx of number 10s within their shape or their squad, and you can say this influenced Zagallo to play all of Brazil's best players under one tactic. The front two, which was Style and Pelé, didn't play as the typical strikers. Both had to drop deeper into the midfield areas, collecting the ball, but this meant now Brazil did not have no main influence or target inside the box. Given the quality of the attacking players, this simply just was not needed. Style was very smart with his movements. He would drop into deeper areas. This allowed Pelé, who was the star of the show, to make similar movements, and this created wonderful interchanges where all attackers could benefit from the space created in behind the two. He was the prime playmaker, whilst Style kind of resembled more of a false nine back then. Rivellino on the left wing played more as a typical winger, though he was a natural attacking midfielder who could come in and play more narrow, not only to create a slight overload with Pelé and Gerson, but also created a three-man midfield with the two central midfield, as Rivellino also would drop deeper. Jairzinho had pace like no other, using his pace to exploit the open spaces created by mainly Style and get into very good goal scoring positions. He would often make the run from wider positions into the field, but his off the ball movement was just as great as his skills on the ball. On the ball, he terrorized opposition's defenses when running at them. In goal was Felix. Carlos Alberto was the very offensive wing back, constantly up and down the flank, with Jairzinho looking to make the run inside meant that Carlos Alberto mostly had that whole flank to himself. Not to forget, he was also the captain of the side. Everaldo was a lot more cautious than Carlos Alberto, and this brought excellent balance with the back four. Piazza was a defender who was very comfortable on the ball, and that is understandable as naturally he was a midfielder. Brito was a more standard centre-back at that time. You could say he had the least skill in the team, but then that would be totally unfair to say. Clodoaldo and Gerson in central mid operated as the midfield pivot. Gerson was another creative player in this Brazil setup, but he could create from deeper positions, not only keeping the team ticking in deeper areas, but had the vision to pick out some outrageous passes. Clodoaldo was more of a tough guy in midfield, looking to win the ball back for his team. Calling him a ball-winning midfielder may take away some of the qualities he also possessed on the ball. Brazil's build-up from the back had to happen with some speed, not direct, but with a little speed to get the ball to the more advanced and creative players. A lot of vertical passes from deeper areas, but Brazil was very versatile when it comes to their play, which made it almost impossible to defend against or guess what was going to happen next. Players played with extreme flair and freedom, focused on free bodily movement, combines elements of dance, acrobatics and music, and this is how the players moved around the pitch with freedom and elegance, which is what some people would say is Samba Style. Now, to replicate that success in Football Manager, it meant I had to play 2 whole solid years to try and win the World Cup. Luckily, before the World Cup, we did have the Copa America to try and warm up and also to test out the tactic, try and tweak it and get things right, and that is exactly what I did. You can see here we have gone for the 4-2-4. Of course, throughout the game, we are not going to continue with this shape. Players are going to be moving about, roaming around, picking pockets. But when it comes to movement, you will see that players are moving all over the pitch, floating around. When it comes to the mentality, we went for the positive mentality. So we want to control the game, not go too attacking, too direct and too aggressive. And we could have went for balance, but it was a little bit too cautious for Brazil's liking. So I went for the positive mentality. For the attacking width, we just left that on standard, which would be fairly wide. And in approach play, we have overlap on the right. So we want this wing back to be bombing, which would be Carlos Alberto, basically dominating this flank, whilst the right winger will be looking to make the inside movement. So overlap on the right was kind of necessary. And we also opted to play out from the fence. When it comes to passing directness, we have gone with the shorter passing and we have gone for the lower tempo. Football back then, it was just a lot slower. That is what we're trying to replicate. We want to try and capture some of that realism with players taking their time on the ball. When it comes to the final third or the dribbling, we have the run at defence. We want players getting at the opposition. And when it comes to creative freedom, of course, absolutely no doubt about it, we want to be more expressive. When it comes to transitions, I don't have any instructions when it comes to when possession has been lost or when possession has been won. Watching videos and doing the research, I couldn't really see anything definite, so I thought it was best to leave it. When the keeper is in possession, I want him to be distributing it to any of my defenders, whichever one is available. And when it comes to the distribution type, of course, goalkeepers back then used to just roll it out. They used to just drop the ball and roll it out. We don't want no long kicks. When it comes for out of possession, I have gone with a standard line of engagement, but I have gone with a higher line of defense just to try and push my team up a little bit, try and put us on the front foot a little bit. We want to be the more dominating team, just like Brazil were back then in the 1970s. When it comes to defensive width and offside trap, I've left that all on standard, which would come with the mentality. And the offside trap, I've just left that off. I didn't honestly see the defense pushing up constantly, trying to catch the opposition offside. When it comes to marking and tackling though, back then football was a lot more aggressive. Players, especially when you watch Uruguay versus Brazil in that World Cup, Uruguay did not allow Brazil to play. It was a lot of aggressiveness. So one way to combat that was be aggressive back, and that is exactly what some Brazil players had in their locker, is that aggressiveness. And when it comes to the present intensity, again, back then football was a lot more slower. If I shift this up, you will see there's a slightly more urgent press, and I just don't feel there was any sort of press per se, so I just went for the slightly less urgent. So now let's look at some of the player roles. For the goalkeeper, he's just the standard goalkeeper on defend. For the left back, the cautious left back, he's the full back on defend, but his instruction is to run wide with the ball. So it's kind of a defensive instruction if you look at it one way, as in they're running wide with the ball. So the further wider they go with the ball, so less chance if they lose the ball, a dangerous counter-attack could happen. But also when they're running wide with the ball, that can also stretch the opposition. The fullback wasn't just strictly a defender. He didn't strictly just stay back. He picked and chose his moments, and that is exactly what this fullback will do. In defence, we have the ball playing defender. We're asking him to pass it shorter, but to dribble more. He has the license to bring the ball out, and when he brings the ball out, he will then have some better angles when passing the ball with the dribble more option. And for his defensive partner, he is the no-nonsense centre-back on cover. I like this role, I can't lie to you. I think it complements the ball playing defender very well. And on the right hand side will be the Carlos Alberto role, the wing back on attack, and I am asking him to take more risks on the ball. When it comes to the midfield pivot, we have the Roman playmaker on support, again asking him to run wide with the ball. The reason why I asked him to be the Roman playmaker is because simply I could have went with a deep lying playmaker, but he offered me very, very little in attack. As you can see here, he would look to pick the ball up from deep and work his way up to the pitch. And I feel that's what Gerson was available to do. His midfield partner is just a central midfield partner on support, but he has pass it shorter, shoot less often and hold position. As you can tell, those are risk-free options. He was kind of the ball winner, so I have him also tackling harder. On the left flank, we have the inverted winger. He has take more risk, cross less often and mark tighter. You would notice that he dribbles a lot and he will cut inside, making this movement in here. He could also come inside when the tricotista drops, or a lot of the times his starting position could be a lot deeper. And on the right we have the Raamdeuter. Again, this is another interesting role. I could have picked the Raamdeuter, I could have picked the inside forward, but I went with the Raamdeuter because he is just, for me, the better goal scorer, and this kind of replicates the Jairzinho movement a lot better for me personally. Anyway, I am asking him to dribble more and mark tighter. And for the Tostão role, we have gone for the false 9, of course. For me, I'm asking him to stay wider. I want a lot of movement, just a lot of movement. As you can see, the Raamdeuter, he roams from position, he moves into the channels, he sits narrow and gets further forward. The inverted winger will be cutting inside with the ball, and the false 9, he will be staying wider. So we have a nice balance of different instructions, of different movement patterns. The false 9, of course, will be looking to drop deep, but he can also stay wide, allowing the Raamdeuter to then come inside, exploiting any space. And for the Pelé role, the almighty Pelé, the best player on earth, in the world, all time, Pelé, he had the trequartista role, a very, very important role, a very, very advanced creative player. He naturally will be dribbling more, take more risks, moving into channels, roaming from position. Again, a lot of the times this movement will cause confusion to the opposition's defense. So as you can see here, the Copa America in 2020, Brazil, we played 5, we won 4, we drew 1 and lost none in the group stages. In the quarterfinal, we then came against Colombia. We managed to scrape a 3-2 win. In the semi-final, we played Argentina and we absolutely hammered them. It was a great, great performance from Brazil that match. And then against Uruguay, we managed to win 2-0 in the final. In the Copa America, we was the team with the most possession with 59% of the ball. When it comes to goals, we was just one behind Argentina, but you saw the results and you can see that we actually scored a fairly decent amount of goals. The passes completed, you can tell that Brazil, we just dominated absolutely every part of the pitch. Also, when it comes to chances created, we created 33 chances, just one behind Argentina, who done very, very well. Dribbles per game, we want to see the flair, people dribbling, and you can see here 20 dribbles per game from Brazil, and we'd managed to draw in 149 fouls, which meant we were difficult to defend against. Shortly after the Copa America, we then had to, of course, finish qualifying for the World Cup, which is important because that is mainly what we're playing this for. And in the qualifying groups, you can see here, Brazil, we played 18, we won 16 of those, only losing 2, we drew no games whatsoever. Also, again, you can see when it comes to possession, we dominated possession. This time, we managed to score the most goals. There was a big gap between me and Argentina. Goals from corners, we actually managed to score 6, which was the most. Again, passes completed, we topped the league. We were dominating. When it comes to chances created, Argentina won it again. Brazil only created 55 good chances. A little poor, but when it comes to the conversion rate, it's nice to know that we had the best conversion rate, burying our chances quarter of the times. And then dribbles per game, we had the most dribbles per game in the qualification. And when it comes to defense, we was very, very solid. And then the World Cup came. Here is the results. Literally, we won every single game. I think since I came, we had one or two losses. The teams we lost against was Argentina, and we lost 3-1 to Paraguay. In the World Cup, we had the 100% record. We played 3, we won 3, scoring 9, only conceded 1, finishing on 9 points. When it came to the second round, we managed to beat Croatia 2-0. Then came the quarterfinal. It was a scrape. We managed to scrape a 1-0 victory over USA, scoring a penalty out of all goals. The semi-final came again, and again it was a scrape. If you can see here, Belgium's tactic, they literally just put every man in defence. And luckily we broke them down, Berto Firmino getting that goal. And in the World Cup final, we were victorious. Again, a very, very difficult game. As you can see, Turkey did not come to play about. They had so many yellow cards. They fouled us 25 times, making it very, very difficult to play our game. We managed to score from a corner, Luis Felipe scoring a goal, then Neymar scoring the most important goal of my Brazil career so far. When it comes to stats, we had 55% of the possession in the World Cup. Turkey, out of all teams, had 61%. That is very, very crazy. When it comes to goals, me and Turkey are equal. We both have 15 goals each. Chances created, we're just behind Turkey. Turkey must be a very, very good team because you can see here, Turkey were top of the chances created as well. And when it comes to passes completed, again, it's Turkey and Senegal who had a very, very good World Cup also, but we are third. Most of our games we were dominating. But that is it for this video. That is it for my Brazil 1970 tactic recreation. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for the suggestions. Also, if you're following me on Twitter, thank you for the follows. I am now on 1,000 followers. It doesn't sound a lot to you, but believe me, it is a lot to me. It means a lot. So thank you for the support. Peace and love. Stay safe.